Less people will crash. That's true. If you strap a pressure-sensitive atomic bomb to everybody's vehicle, they will be so scared of crashing into something that they'll drive as defensively and safely as possible. That's true. See, Tesla had something right, it would seem. If you get into a crash in a Tesla, you will likely die immediately. So therefore, you should probably drive safer.
I guess hydrogen-powered trains are a thing now. A few days ago, China showed off their first hydrogen-powered train that can reach speeds of over 100 miles per hour.
Interesting. Wonder what the reason is for using hydrogen over electric. I'm sure there is a reason. Hydrogen power has been a thing, it's just not super efficient. Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like, faster refueling? That would make sense, considering the fuel for hydrogen is the hydrogen, or whatever, which is all over the goddamn place. And I'm sure you can get it out of a bunch of different shit, like water, yada yada. I won't pretend to know how it works exactly. Whereas the fuel for electric trains is electricity, which you're going to have to build up over a course of time through generating it via other methods of energy, such as solar panels or hydroelectric or wind or fossil fuel. You can transfer it in physical form rather than zappy, but the electrolysis process, water to hydro and oxy, and other processes are energy intensive, which is why hydrocars haven't taken off. Yeah, and also, isn't there like an explosion risk for personal hydrogen automobiles? Like on a train, it's not as much of an issue because you've got a trained conductor and it's on rails, so it's like can go wrong, but the likelihood is less with good maintenance and training and whatnot. But with with personal automobiles, we already see how bad that shit is now. Combustion produces water. Tide goes in, tide goes out. Less people will crash. That's true. If you strap a pressure sensitive atomic bomb to everybody's vehicle, they will be so scared of crashing into something that they'll drive as defensively and safely as possible. That's true. That's true. See, Tesla had something right, it would seem. If you get into a crash in a Tesla, you will likely die immediately. So therefore, you should probably drive safer. Though a lot of the time, the crashes are caused not exactly from human error, but from the shitty make of the vehicle and the electronics within it. But anyway, the batteries on electric cars are supposed to be super dangerous too. Still human error for buying a Tesla? That's true. That's true. Wearing rings is low-key goated when stimming is the vibe. Just recently starting wearing a wedding ring and I keep with it at work. Do you work with heavy machinery? Because if you do, you shouldn't be wearing the ring. There was a joke in there past that somewhere. I just couldn't make it happen in time. Doesn't Tesla disengage the autopilot if it detects a crash is imminent? Probably. The thing is, though, if the autopilot is the cause of the crash, it really depends on how much the human can do in terms of reaction time and the physical nature of the fact that you're in a very heavy vehicle moving in a certain direction at a certain speed and being able to maneuver out of that situation. Well, to be fair, in a situation where you're in the water, in a vehicle, you won't be able to open the door until the pressure is equalized inside and outside the vehicle. So you would want to have all the water enter the car or some shit, right? And at that point, that's hard, so that's why you break the glass. The thing is, even in a standard automobile, it is still potentially going to be difficult for people to break the glass, which is why they make specialized tools that make it very easy to break glass that you would have in an emergency situation. And you would need that in any car. It's the little hammers that have the very fine point, I think. They break glass really easily. One of the attempted rescuers had that tool. Well, yeah, if it's a different kind of glass pane for the window, because it's a Tesla Cybertruck or whatever. It wasn't a Cybertruck. If it's a Tesla or whatever, I imagine that could introduce complications. I don't know how standardized windows in automobiles are in other manufacturers, though. Not a fucking clue. You can get keychain ones, too. You could also just keep a firearm in your car. Just keep a car gun. and start blasting before the water fills up the car. Just keep a grenade and throw it into the back of the car and blow apart the rear of the car and hope that you don't get hit in collateral. Trying to break the glass from outside the car underwater would be harder too. Yeah, because of the resistance of your body moving through water and trying to strike the glass, which is why you want to do it from the inside, right? But yeah, that makes sense for the difficulty of rescue from the outside. Which is why, unironically, if you're inside the car and you don't have access to the tool, or if it's not working, last resort being a firearm honestly wouldn't be that bad. Not ideal, of course, but it would get the job done, and it would help you. Like, it wouldn't... if it doesn't fully shatter the glass, because I don't know about the physics of how that would work, from it being a lot of water and water pressure on the outside, to then the bullet going through. If it doesn't completely shatter the glass, which I think the water pressure, given the structural integrity of the glass pane going down because of the shot, the pressure itself might just break all the glass for you. But if not, then you could probably break it yourself then at that point. You know? How different... Actually, that's a good question. A lot, if not all, of windows in automobiles are automatic now, and they work through electronic signals from pressing up or down on the raise or lower window button. How difficult is it to use one of the old-fashioned crank ones to crank the window down if you're in a high-pressure situation with the water and whatnot? Does it factor at all? Because it just has to move down using the mechanical process of the crank and the gears turning. I imagine it shouldn't be that difficult, if it has an effect at all. Not sure. Maybe we need to return to tradition. The crank windows. You know, it is still the case that, culturally anyway, in the US, the motion you do to non-verbally tell someone to roll down their window is still this, right? Which is funny, because nobody has a car that does that now. But you wouldn't be like this to mimic flipping the switch to make it go down, right? Keep in mind you're cranking it while water is blasting your face. I mean, I'm into some crazy shit, but I've never tried that. I've not tried cranking it in that kind of situation, so I'm not sure how I would Cranking takes so long? Well, that's why it was changed. But yeah, I don't know. The water blasting your face would suck, but like, I mean, in that situation, I feel like you'd be willing to withstand a lot of discomfort to not die. Your adrenaline would probably help you breathe underwater briefly. Momentarily sprout gills, you know? It is certainly better to have the electronic windows, though. Because should you be trying to lower or raise the windows, and you're in the car on your own, you can do that. Like the windows that you cannot access, whereas if it was a crank, you would have to, like, if you wanted to open the passenger window and you're in the driver's seat while driving, theoretically you shouldn't. But if you needed to, you would have to, like, be driving and have your other arm over here trying to do that shit, if you can even reach it, while keeping your feet on the pedals. Like, it's not happening. So that's a helpful thing. Or if you're driving and even trying to put down the driver's side window, that's enough of, like, a mechanical process while you're driving to potentially introduce variables that could lead to you driving like a dumb fuck on the road, which could be unsafe. Not that bad, though. So just being able to flick a button is much better. Because, like, ideally, if it's, like, fully automatic, you flick it once, and it will automatically raise or lower all the way. Or if you're just doing minor adjustments, it's very quick and easy. You just have to be, like, and you're done. The window crank might not work because of the water pressure. Well, that's what I was wondering. That was the initial, that was the genesis of this question, or of this conversation. I was thinking, would the water pressure change how the crank would work to bring the window down? I don't know if it would change anything. Because obviously, if there was water in the car, it would be more difficult to use the crank because you'd be moving your hand through water. But if there's no water in the car, like your arm is not submerged, then it just goes up and down. The window's being pushed in, yeah, so there could be, like, a physical thing that causes the friction of the thing to, like, it'll, instead of going straight down, it'll be like this, kinda, and that can fuck shit up. But I mean, at that point, like, unless it gets stuck, if you're able to bring it down even a little bit, like, it's not ideal, but then you'd have a better time trying to kick the window out, to break it and then get out, right? Because there's going to be a little bit of space in the top. It's not going to be fully set in the window, so maybe that would be a bit better. Or like theoretically, if you had like some kind of claw-like device, because you wouldn't want to use your bare hand, obviously. If the window's open a little bit and you have some kind of like claw-like device, that I guess in this case wouldn't be like a crowbar, because that would probably be strong enough to just break the window. But you could put it on the window and then pull, like latch it on the window and then pull. That would break it pretty easily, probably. They make a tool for this that everyone should buy one. Yeah, it's the little hammer with the point that demolishes glass. The window is sandwiched between gaskets in the mechanical scenario. Gaskets, you say? Honestly, 3 sides of support is only barely less than 4, if I recall my engineering. It's better than nothing. Listen, you need odds, and no matter how slim they are, you need them in a situation like that. You take what you can get. Apparently, they did this on Mythbusters, and the pressure was too much to roll the window down. Interesting. I imagine it's because of the friction, then. Of the fact that the window's being pushed inward. So when you try to crank it, it's like gonna be like that a little bit, and it won't go down. Something. That's my guess. So essentially, every single car should be outfitted with a big red button that automatically explodes using micro explosives the windows of the car, so that you can just press it, or even pull a pin, a mechanical, non-electronic option, to send it off, you know? Or just have a car gun. Very simple. It's still dry inside the vehicle. Shoot the window out. That's what I'm saying, Cosmic Corbin. Very simple. Of course, make sure there's no fish on the other side that might be collateral damage. Wouldn't want to do that, but the bullet will slow down at some point, unless it hits something, so maybe it'll just be like a light tap that the fish will experience.